Britain in the 1950s was finding itself again. The war was behind them, the rebuilding was underway, and on the roads of England, something quietly magnificent was happening. The British saloon car was reaching its peak. Not the flashy sports cars, not the grand limousines built for state occasions. The saloon. 4 doors, 5 seats, a proper British car for a proper British life. But some of these saloons were anything but ordinary. Some carried racing engines beneath respectable bonnets. Some offered interiors that embarrassed cars costing 3 times the price. And one made drivers who already owned a Rolls-Royce walk into a different showroom entirely. Today we count down the 10 greatest British saloons of the 1950s. Let us begin. Number 10. The Wolseley 690, 1954 to 1959. Wolseley Motors. By 1956, if you were driving on a British road and you saw headlights filling your mirror, there was a reasonable chance it was a Wolseley 690. And a reasonable chance it was moving faster than you. The 690 was adopted by police forces across the country. The illuminated badge on the bonnet, the purposeful stance, the 2.6-litre 6-cylinder engine that could maintain speeds most criminals found uncomfortable. But beneath the police livery was a genuine luxury saloon. Wide leather seats, a handsome wooden dashboard, an interior finished to a standard well above its price. Senior officers who drove 690s in their professional lives often bought one privately when they retired. The car that chased criminals turned out to be one of the finest saloons Britain made that decade. Number 9. The Standard Vanguard Phase III, 1955 to 1958. The Standard Vanguard does not get the credit it deserves. It never did. The Vanguard had evolved through several phases since 1947. By Phase III, Standard had finally got everything right. Cleaner lines, a more refined interior, a 2.1-litre 4-cylinder engine, dependable, smooth, and entirely suited to the long, straight roads of post-war Britain. The cabin was wide and properly comfortable, the dashboard clear and logically arranged. Standard understood something important. Most British families in the 1950s did not need a grand car. They needed a good one. The Vanguard Phase III was exactly that. Honest, capable, and quietly better than anyone gave it credit for. Number 8. The Humber Hawk, 1957 to 1959. The Humber Hawk was the choice of people who knew what they wanted and did not feel the need to advertise it. A 2.3-litre 4-cylinder engine, a body that sat low and wide on the road, an interior of genuine quality, leather seating, polished wood, clear instruments. The Hawk was not trying to be a Rolls-Royce, it was trying to be the best version of itself. And in that, it succeeded completely. Doctors drove them, solicitors drove them. People who needed a car that worked perfectly every single day and looked entirely appropriate outside every building they visited. The Humber Hawk was British dependability at its most elegant. Number 7. The Riley Pathfinder, 1953 to 1957. Riley Motors. Riley had always built cars for people who loved driving. The Pathfinder continued that tradition, while adding something new, genuine refinement. A 2.5-litre engine, producing over 100 horsepower, the same unit in modified form that had powered Riley sports cars at Le Mans. Racing heritage quietly fitted beneath a gentleman's saloon. The dashboard was a continuous sweep of polished burr walnut, the seats deep and properly supportive. The ride, at a time when British roads were still recovering from wartime neglect, was exceptional. Riley buyers knew something the market had not yet caught up with, that a saloon car could be both refined and genuinely exciting. The Pathfinder proved them right. Number 6. The Ford Consul. The Ford Consul was not glamorous. Ford never claimed it was. What they claimed instead was something rarer in 1950s Britain. Value. Real, honest, undeniable value. A 1.5-litre four-cylinder engine, overhead valve, modern for its time, in a proper four-door saloon body that Ford had designed from scratch after the war. Independent front suspension, when most British cars still used cart springs, a 3-speed column gear change that freed up the floor entirely. Over 230,000 Consuls were built, which means that in almost every street in Britain during the 1950s, there was one. The Consul was not the finest saloon on this list, but it may have been the most important. It proved that an ordinary British family could own a modern, well-engineered, genuinely comfortable saloon car. That idea, simple as it sounds, changed Britain permanently. Number 5. The Jaguar Mark I, 1955 to 1959. Jaguar cars. In 1955, Jaguar built a saloon car that changed what the word saloon meant. The Mark I was compact by Jaguar standards, but compact did not mean compromised. A 2.4-litre six-cylinder engine, later a 3.4-litre version that produced 210 horsepower, in a saloon car in 1957. The body was sleek and genuinely beautiful. The interior offered leather, walnut, and a driving position that made the driver feel not transported, but in command. The 3.4-litre Mark I could reach 120 miles per hour. Police forces bought them to chase criminals. The criminals had often bought them first. The Mark I was the beginning of something Jaguar would refine for the next 2 decades, and it was very nearly perfect from the very first day. Number 4. The Armstrong Siddeley Star Sapphire from 1958 to 1960. Armstrong Siddeley built just 980 Star Sapphires. In an era when success was measured in volume, they measured it differently, in the number of customers who never needed to buy another car. A 4.0-litre six-cylinder engine of extraordinary smoothness. A pre-selector gearbox that made changing gear feel less like a skill and more like a courtesy. The cabin was calm, wide, and finished with a patience that showed in every detail. But the number that matters is not the engine size. It is 980, fewer than 1,000 cars, each one built for someone who had looked at everything else available, including Rolls-Royce, and decided they wanted something more considered, more personal, more theirs. Armstrong Siddeley never advertised aggressively. They never needed to. Their customers came back and brought others with them. Number 3. The Bentley S1, 1955 to 1959. Bentley Motors. The Bentley S1 shared its engineering with the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. Same factory, same engine, same chassis, but not the same car. Bentley buyers and Rolls-Royce buyers were different people. Rolls-Royce buyers wanted to be seen arriving. Bentley buyers wanted to enjoy getting there. The S1 was tuned with sharper throttle response, the steering set up to give more feedback. The 4.9-litre six-cylinder engine moved the car with a purpose that the Silver Cloud, for all its magnificence, did not quite replicate. One motoring writer of the era described the difference simply. The Rolls-Royce felt like it had already arrived. The Bentley felt like it wanted to go somewhere. For a certain kind of British driver, that distinction was everything. Number 2. The Jaguar Mark IX, 1958 to 1961. Jaguar cars. If the Mark I was Jaguar's promise, the Mark IX was its delivery, the finest large saloon Britain produced in the 1950s. A 3.8-litre six-cylinder engine, four-wheel disc brakes at a time when most manufacturers were still fitting drums. Power steering a standard, remarkable for 1958. The interior was breathtaking. Acres of hand-polished walnut, deep leather seating that seemed to be shaped around the human body. Instruments clear and beautifully set into the wood. Over 10,000 Mark IXs were built, which tells you everything about how much Britain wanted one. It outsold every comparable car from every comparable manufacturer, because at its price, there was simply nothing better anywhere in the world. Number 1. The Daimler Majestic Major, 1959 to 1968. And here we are, number 1. The car that made Rolls-Royce drivers switch immediately. It arrived in the final months of the decade, as if the 1950s had saved its greatest saloon for last. The Daimler Majestic Major carried a 4.5-litre V8, designed by Edward Turner, the genius behind some of Britain's greatest motorcycle engines, producing 220 horsepower, in a large, formal British saloon in 1959. 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds, a top speed of 122 miles per hour. And yet, inside, one of the most beautifully appointed cabins in Britain, vast, calm, finished with the patience Daimler had practiced for decades. Rolls-Royce offered refinement without the performance. Sports cars offered performance without the refinement. The Majestic Major offered both, in a single, magnificent, entirely British package. Those who drove both often found the question answered itself. The Majestic Major did something the Silver Cloud could not. It made every journey feel like an occasion, without ever making the driver feel like a passenger. 10 saloons, 10 different answers to the same question. What should a great British car feel like? Wolseley said it should feel authoritative. Standard said it should feel honest. Humber said it should feel dependable. Riley said it should feel alive. Ford said it should feel accessible. Jaguar said it should feel commanding. Armstrong Siddeley said it should feel effortless. Bentley said it should feel purposeful. And Daimler said it should feel like both the finest saloon in Britain and the fastest at the same time, without compromise, without apology. The 1950s produced some of the greatest saloon cars Britain ever made, and the greatest of them reminded a generation of Rolls-Royce drivers that the best car in the room is not always the most obvious one. Subscribe, because there is plenty more history worth remembering.